Hey Libra, what's up? Where I'm seeing us be within the energy is thinking about some major life stuff right now. It feels like the big important stuff that's being thought about and considered. We're starting off with Two of Swords, and I was also seeing Two of Cups on the bottom of the deck. So this can mean that maybe there's something about a relationship that's going to come up that you haven't like made a decision about yet, but you're considering it right now. This can also be like waiting to get more clarity, or it can be being ready to, you know, if this is your energy, you can be ready to investigate and address something that had been sort of paused. Something wasn't being done about it. It's like knowing that it's sort of there sitting in the queue, but it wasn't really ready to be addressed. Now can be the time when you're addressing that. This can also mean too that if you were like waiting on some sort of information or clarity, something like that, and you were like, I can't make the decision until that happens, it's just time to address whatever this is. And whatever it is that you need information-wise in order to do that, it's coming through now. Connected with something that you've been feeling all along. Okay. So, something that I'm seeing here is you being put in this place where there's a choice, there's a step that needs to be made, action is meant to be taken, but you could have really been feeling on the fence. You could have really been feeling like, I'm not seeing this clearly. You could have really been feeling like, I'm unsure. I'm seeing that where this is coming from is connected with past stuff for you, that being faced with this thing within your life feels like it brings up this stuff, and that there is a lens where you're looking at things through that has to do with, it can be like avoidance of pain. It can be something about this feels triggering to parts of me that I have not totally integrated. This is bringing up fears from my past for me, and that's putting me off doing something about that. Meaning, if you were in a place where you felt like totally connected and brave within your feelings, you may have done something about this already. You may have made this choice already. This feels like you've been in a place where you can feel protective of yourself, and that's why you haven't made this decision. You can feel scared of getting hurt. That can be why you haven't made this decision. You can be just in this place of not being totally open-minded to what's going on. That can be part of this too. And I feel in general, you just being like kind of protective over yourself, not really because this situation needs this, but because maybe based off of your past experiences, it's put you into this place of not being the most open-hearted. So this can be something that you're addressing now at this point. It can be something that you're realizing even. It's like you're not even always open to the things that you want to do and say and create within your life because of maybe the perceived repercussions. But it's not like you're looking at things and being like, I'm seeing red flags, and that's where this assessment is coming from. This can very much be based off of past experience that you're trying to like apply to a situation that it may not necessarily apply. So this is something to be aware of, because you can feel like you're kind of fighting with yourself a little bit here within the energy. Because I get this sense like something that you're doing, it requires some vulnerability and some emotional honesty here. And that can be something where you're like, it just doesn't feel safe to do that. But is it worth it to you? Is the vulnerability worth it? So that can be a bigger question that you're asking yourself here. Because I think you really have your doubts, but I'm not getting this based off of... I feel like you're being so cautious within this process that you're not seeing things clearly. this feels like being very, very, yeah, cautious feels like the right word, but it feels like overkill the way that this is being addressed. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to balance things and take a balanced approach, but it feels like at this point, some of you, it's the other person that you're dealing with. It's their decision that hasn't really been being made, and you're like, what's going to be happening? For those of you that this is you, you can just feel like because something is still up in the air, yeah, whether this be you or it be the other person, I just get a lot of doubt surrounding this situation. Not really because there need to be doubts about it, but it's just there's a lot of self-protecting that I'm seeing going on here in a situation that requires vulnerability. And that's really where this struggling can be coming from. And you can feel like, I don't know if I have it in me to address this part of myself here that is, I think, having a hard time settling down. You can feel kind of unsettled with this because I just get it feeling kind of, it's bringing stuff up for you and you can be seeing it surfacing. And this can be like family of origin stuff for you that's being brought up here because it's looking at the 10 of Pentacles, you know, like this can be like family stuff that's being brought up for you through this situation, historical stuff that's being brought up for you through this situation. Again, like things that you've experienced that may have sort of split you where you don't feel completely whole within yourself, where it feels like you kind of need to be in order to move through this, or at least act and move from a place where you are connected with yourself. That doesn't mean we always feel that way, but it's about sort of bridging the gap. And it's a gap that does need to be bridged here in order for you to have a clear perspective of what's going on. Which is ultimately what you want at the end of the day, right? Is to be seeing things clearly and to be judging things based off of a clear perception, not one that is overly cautious to the point of avoidance. Some of you too, you can even have somebody that's reaching out to you here, and there can be a part of you that feels maybe uncomfortable with being seen at times. Something else that I'm seeing with this is that, so let's say that you're in an interaction with somebody, okay, and you're not totally clear on your boundaries, and you have somebody doing something and you don't necessarily confront it, but you walk away being like, that didn't sit well with me. I didn't like that. Something about that. I don't feel at peace with it. It bothered me. And you can be kind of like feeling those feelings, okay, based off of that situation. When you get to a point where you're understanding that this comes from a place of having boundaries that are not being honored and not being understood, not being known, not being expressed, not being respected, until you get to that point, you cannot understand like why you're carrying around this feeling with you. So it feels like this is an opportunity for you to learn about what's been going on and why things pop up for you in the ways that they do. Because if you feel like you are not in a place where you know what your boundaries are, it can make it feel like a huge risk to get involved with anybody. Because you're like, where is the line gonna be? And it feels like until we understand that and understand our feelings, it can feel like any situation is going to be risky, and we're not able to discern which ones are the right situations for us to be in and which ones are the wrong situations for us to be in. And we just like mark all of them in our minds as being not good situations for us to be in because we don't have that discernment yet. So there's something here that it feels like it's a time when your discernment can really be growing and expanding. And you can decide that maybe you're up for something that you want now at this point. But having to work with this part of you that can be, your mind can be really closed off at times. And it's just like a safety mechanism that kicks on. And it can be something where you you talk yourself out of things that you want, but then you also can feel like you're lacking and missing what it is that you want. It's like protecting yourself from what you want, but then those are the things that you want sometimes. And so kind of working with that, and then you can feel kind of like frustrated or confused with yourself, like what's really going on here. It just feels like it adds a lot of complications to things. So yeah, maybe you haven't really given an answer to this, or you haven't totally decided if this is something that you want to take on and something that you want to be doing here. Does it feel like the right time for you? I'm definitely seeing that you've been making progress on the emotional front. Yeah, whatever this thing is that's been going on for you, I'm seeing it be something that kind of makes it unclear what you're going to be feeling happy with. It's like this thoughts that have to be worked out and made sense of when it comes to your happiness within life. Because you can actually actively be pushing things away that you would feel happy with and that you do want because of this thing that's going on. And it can be something that kind of blurs your vision and then has you doing like the opposite of what you actually want. But again, it doesn't come from nowhere. This comes from a place of feeling protective over yourself and not totally realizing at times. And that can instill a sense of doubt as well. If you've been through hardships and you've been through situations that haven't been easy and things have kind of fallen apart and you're faced with a situation that feels difficult and challenging, there can be a part of you that's like, I faced challenges before and seen things like fall apart and not work out, and is this going to be the same thing? But I do get this sense of like not a total clear sense of discernment because your heart is not fully open. And I think when you check into this can be something that, you know, like, yeah, I'm not the most open-minded to this situation. Yeah, I am scared of getting hurt. Yeah, I feel really uncomfortable being vulnerable because I've had like bad experiences in the past when I've done that. So I think it's just a time when you can be seeing this and you can be becoming more aware of that too within yourself. So you can be learning a lot about yourself right now. And I see a lot of different pieces that are kind of moving right now for you within your personal life. Like, it feels like it's a big time of growth for you, and that can sometimes feel a little bit overwhelming as well. I am seeing the Chariot on the bottom of the deck, so there can be movement that's happening. There can be a bit of a transition, and at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff that's being figured out. I think it's just like kind of part of the process right now, but from everything that I was seeing, I am seeing you be like in the midst of this, like you are moving through it. I'm not seeing too much of a stagnancy, maybe a little bit of a stagnancy, but it looks like you're in the process of working it out. So I suppose just continue with what it is that you're doing. We are going to leave the reading here. I want to thank everyone for connecting and tuning in, and I hope to catch you guys next time.